Ahoy there! Welcome to Adventure Calls, where we shout across the horizon to talk about the latest adventures to hit the Sea of Thieves, and hopefully talk about some lore along the way. You've caught us at a pretty bad time. We just got attacked by a skeleton ship. We're out of fucking supplies. Cheeto's overboard, and I don't care enough to stop the ship, so he's gone today. But I am joined by my co-host, Derry, who's a regular on this podcast. What's up, Derry?
Hey, what's up, guys? Shit'll just catch a merm. It's fine.
Someday, yeah, someday. Today we're talking about the fifth adventure to hit the Sea of Thieves, the Forsaken Hunter. This just released a few days ago, so for once we're actually on the ball. And let's talk about it, because, I mean, there's some lore to discuss in this one, I would say. Compared to the other ones, there's a lot of lore, I would actually wager.
Just it's kind of faulted on the gameplay side, but it's mostly just reading journals and big reveals.
We'll get to that gameplay discussion, especially. So I guess the pretense context that you need going in is that Merrick has learned a lot. A fan favorite character in the Sea of Thieves. He's been here since pretty much the beginning. He's been learning a lot over the past season. Ever since he's been reintroduced into the story with the Shrouded Deep, he's been learning a lot about the arms race between Flameheart and the Pirate Lord, Athena's Fortune and the Reaper's Bones. Whether that be the Veil of the Ancients, whatever Bell has told him about the Sea of the Damned, or his discussions with the Pirate Lord, I'm sure that there's a lot of important kind of shit that should not be in the wrong hands. That being said, Merrick is missing. Ever since the end of Lost Sands, we haven't really seen him around. So Lorena sends us on another favor to go and search for him at Stephen Spoils. We go to Stephen Spoils, and you can even ask Stephen himself about it. He has a little nice remark about stealing all of Merrick's shit like a real pirate, and you can find a note of correspondence where someone, a mysterious figure, has asked Merrick to leave his seapost and meet him somewhere. This is very interesting, kind of. It's a bit mysterious, yeah. I think it's kind of interesting that we have a second murder mystery going on at the same time, which leads me to believe that maybe DeMarco isn't even dead, and this is the murder mystery they were talking about. But
I mean, this one got solved in the same thing.
That's very true, and DeMarco's mystery is kind of evolved with this one as well. But we'll get to that at the end. The note of correspondence sends us to K9, the Unmarked Isle, one of the only few unmarked islands in the Sea of Thieves to date that are still around, and Belle is waiting there for us with her buoy. You walk up to her, and she kind of foreshadows, like, hey, something really bad has happened here, and trigger warning, basically, like, if you're not ready to hear the truth, fucking get out of here, don't play this adventure.
This ain't for the faint of heart.
Yeah, this ain't for the faint of heart. Of course, we ask her what happened, and she pulls out her lantern of souls. God, I feel like the ferryman's lantern. I'm pretty sure it's called the ferryman's lantern. She brings out the ferryman's lantern, and we see that Merrick has been cut down in the sand by a masked assailant, and this whole adventure is basically a murder mystery solving who this person is and the tracks they've left behind.
Assailant, they look familiar.
They look quite familiar. They are in the second adventure trailer, The Forts of the Forgotten, which we'll mention that too, because there's a journal about that.
Yeah.
The lore here, like I've said, is pretty good. I think it's tying up a lot of stuff that we've been wondering for a bit.
But it raises more questions, though, too, at the same time.
Especially with the ending.
Mystery evolving. Yeah.
I do want to say that this adventure, Forsaken Hunter, reminds me a lot of Shrouded Islands and Fate of the Morning Star. Specifically, we're using the mechanic by lighting souls to see memories of the past and kind of solve a mystery of sorts. More so Fate of the Morning Star, because we're seeing a character get murdered and not really solving that, but it did bring back memories for me, so I kind of like that. I like this mechanic, but it's definitely not very, involved gameplay-wise. Like, it doesn't take a monkey could do this, pretty much.
I have a little bit of a complaint about the story itself, but I'll hold it till the end.
Hold it until it's relevant, because I'm not even sure I know this specific complaint.
It's not like a big thing. It's more of a just being stupid.
I see. So the first clue we get is a picture of Wanderer's Refuge, and if you know anything about Sea of Thieves lore, you know that there's a specific little hideout on Wanderer's Refuge, that is pretty relevant in this adventure. So of course, we know where it is. It's Wanda's hideout, in between a
Yeah.
rock underneath the arch. So we go underneath there, and it's trashed. It's pretty much destroyed. Like, it was already kind of in shambles considering a skeleton built that place, but now it's like actually trashed.
It's like someone just came through and just rummaged through everything and threw everything around.
Pretty much. There used to be like there's a hidden door. Anyone who's played the game for a few years and is like even slightly involved probably knows this already. But there's a skull on the main table, and if you turn that around, a secret back door opens. Back there's not only a journal from Cursed Sails back when Wanda was really a part of the story, but there's there's tattered banners of Flameheart's burning blade everywhere, and the figurehead that was once kind of proudly in a Flameheart shrine is now pretty much destroyed.
It wasn't like a huge thing, but it was just kind of like oh, they actually changed this place for the adventure.
And that's what the adventures are all about, right? Like changing the world and giving us meaningful kind of advances to the story.
Well, I felt like it was a pretty obscure location that they messed with too, but I guess it's not so obscure anymore.
There's something to be said about that, because a lot of this stuff really ties back to year 2, I would say, like right after Anniversary. The figure who is the masked assailant was kind of a controversial figure back then. People thought that they were Wanda, and now it's cool to see them involved with Wanda. We'll get to who that is later. You've likely already played the adventure if you're listening to us talk about it.
And if you're not, play it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was good.
Yeah.
We'll get to where it ranks among the others later, but it was good. Like, I liked the story. If you're into the Sea of Thieves story, then you'll definitely get something out of this. It definitely wasn't bad.
There's substance to be had. I do feel like, though, that they could have done more and make it more involved with, like, more so engaging of how you find this information.
I kind of agree.
I felt it was very easy. It wasn't...
And most of the adventures have been. Let's get that across, too. Like, none of them
Well,
have been
yeah.
particularly hard.
It
But
was
I
more
imagine
of-
since we're so cracked at this game, like, maybe that's an unfair criticism, because to someone that just installed the game like 3 weeks ago and this is their first adventure, I don't think they would really have an easy time finding that hideout.
Probably not, actually.
The journal
but-
doesn't really give you a great, like, if you aren't a Sea of Thieves veteran, then a lot of this stuff, like, may seem pretty alien to you, and there isn't really a good way to kind of, unless you watch lore videos and stuff, which you should watch mine, there is not a great way to really catch up on this stuff. You kind of are just thrown into it, which is a blessing and a curse in some ways.
I more so meant easy just because it is go to point A to point B.
I mean,
There
of
isn't,
course,
like-
and there's a lot of that
there
in
isn't-
Sea of Thieves too.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's just more so that they can make something like this a little bit more interesting. But the story itself is enough to keep it going.
I also should say this is not the finale of this arc. This is the second to last. So the next one will be the big bombastic finale, and maybe we'll get a different kind of set piece or like something more grand than just going point A to point B.
Or an even bigger lore review.
Probably both at the same time. I mean, if we think back
Yeah.
to Shrouded Deep, that's kind of the standard for what these should be, the finales at least. Anyway,
Yeah.
we've gotten off topic enough. We can talk about the actual thoughts on the adventure overall at the end. Inside Wanda's workshop, we see the box of wondrous secrets and our masked assailant talking to it. There's a lot to go over here. This is the first time we've seen this thing opened.
Yeah, and it's honestly not what I expected whenever I saw it.
I was expecting this, at least to some extent. There's a lot of talk, or has been a lot of talk, about what's inside the box. That box has been around since Forsaken Shores 3 years ago. Almost 4 years ago, actually. There's been characters who have looked inside and described what they saw. So we've only had very vague speculation, and the last time we saw it involved in the story was Shrouded Islands, which I do want to say something about that.
Yeah.
All we really have to go off of is Stitcher Jim's what happened to him and the dream that Grace Morrow has in Heart of Fire. The quote from Heart of Fire is, "The box is empty, no more than that. Where its bottom should be, there's a hole, like peering into a great abyss. And inside that, flames. Endless, searing flames." The journal that our masked assailant writes, another thing I want to mention about her is that she is not very good at destroying her tracks, and she made it pretty easy for us to follow.
That's what I was gonna. That was my one complaint is that they were like, "Oh, they'll never find me." You're literally leaving journals everywhere, like actual breadcrumbs, dude. Like, that was my one thing. That was my one problem with this adventure. That's why I think it's like it's not very engaging because the character that we're following is stupid.
Pretty
Like
much, yeah. There's,
that was my one thing that was like, okay, come on.
what we can infer that is inside the box are the soul flames, which have become a plot point, or have been a plot point for a while, but are really coming to the forefront and getting like actually explained.
Yeah, which is nice. Finally getting some explanation of how some of this stuff works and
Yeah, I feel like we
what it
should have
might
known
be.
what was inside the box years ago, but it's better late than never, if you ask me.
I guess it builds hype for what's
I
inside.
suppose, but there's a limit to hype where you should kind of be able to pay off something within a time frame. I really like that we're getting this box of wondrous secrets reveal. We can kind of hear the masked assailant speaking to Wanda through the Sea of the Damned. And after the events of a pirate's life, the Dark Brethren had to escape to the Sea of the Damned while the veil was still weak. They had a window to escape, and that's where they've been hiding, kind of watching the events unfold. And they haven't had a way to get back, or to and fro, I should say, which is a plot point in this adventure, which we will get to. After finding the masked assailant's notes that she buried and left behind, we get two maps to Smugglers Bay and Salty Sands, which are two islands very far away. Something I do not like about this adventure is the sailing time. This is by far the longest one. Maybe if you
Yeah,
did the Shrouded Deep solo, that would be the longest one, definitely. But that one is encouraged to have teamwork where you are kind of cooperating with other crews and deciding like, okay, we're gonna go do this, you go do that. But this is a adventure you only do with your crew, and sailing across the entire shores of Plenty, to and fro, back and forth, like it's
it kind of takes you out of the story for a second.
yeah.
'Cause- well, I did want to return though to the box and say I didn't get to finish my thoughts on
Oh,
that
sorry about that.
yeah, before I forget about it. I really like how it looks like space, but those little dots are just soul flames. It's such a mysterious thing. It looks alien. I don't know if you mentioned that we think that the box is some kind of like communication device, and that's what it's been foreshadowed to be. Like you mentioned that the mass assailant was talking to Wanda through it, right?
Yes,
And that's how we think that Stitcher Jim, Flameheart, was talking to him through it.
indeed. I actually forgot to mention that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring that up.
Stitcher Jim, upon looking into the Box of Wonders secrets, supposedly went insane and betrayed the Forsaken Alliance, killing all of them across the Forsaken shores. What we can infer is that he changed alliances from the Gold Hoarder to Flameheart after Flameheart kind of whispered sweet nothings to him from the Sea of the Damned through the Box of Wonders secrets and kind of put shit in his head, making him go crazy. We can
And
also infer something I wanted to mention in Shrouded Islands. The Reapers and Flameheart Jr. are carrying around these Box of Wonders secrets. I mentioned in my Legend of the Veil episode that I think the Soul Flame captains are kind of revived from these soul flames. Like the Reapers are imbuing them with these soul flames, bringing them to life with the past like memories of pirate captains. And I also think in that adventure that is how Flameheart Jr. is communicating with Flame or Captain Flameheart. That would
yeah,
make sense to me.
because that I only really wanted to rewind because I feel like that was a very important implication that we
Good
kind of
catch.
got answered
Good catch.
directly by Wanda, or not Wanda, the mysterious masked assailant.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
horrible with names.
No, it's
That
good.
there's a direct correlation to our theories before, and it's been kind of soft answered, if not hard answered.
Indeed.
That is what it is.
Good catch. We head to Smugglers Bay, at least we did. You don't have to do this in any particular order. And we see the masked assailant leaving a Soul Flame rowboat, okay, and kind of having a conversation with Brethren Phantoms. There's a lot to go over here, but the first thing I want to say before we get sidetracked, I like that we get confirmation the Phantoms are not only working for Flameheart. These Phantoms or representations of people's souls are still conscious in a way. Like we can understand that while they usually do live out their past memories and kind of live day to day, like Dark Souls NPCs or something, they also do have a will of their own still. They're not just
Yeah,
memories; they're like manifestations of the mind, which is a cool kind of reminder.
they're
Uh,
not just mindless goons.
Pretty much,
They're
yeah, and they can work for different allegiances. So we see what the masked assailant and Brethren Phantoms are actually discussing is getting a trident from the Treasury of Sunken Shores right next to. I said Smugglers Bay earlier. I meant Sailor's Bounty. I confuse those islands quite often.
yeah, it's in the script.
Yeah, my bad. But there is a journal outside of this encounter that it especially intrigues me. The masked assailant writes about the Gold Hoarder's skull, which is also relevant in this adventure. The Gold Hoarder's eyeballs are twin Veilstones.
That's a huge deal, by
If
the
you
way.
play Legend of the Veil, you would assume like there's only 3 Veilstones we really need, but now we know they can kind of
That's-
just pull them out of their ass for whatever story purpose they need, which is fine by me. Obviously, this wasn't planned 3, 4 years ago when the Gold Hoarder was being teased. Actually, he was being teased since 2016. My bad. In E3, we know that obviously they weren't planning this plot line, but I like when they can go back to old content and be like, okay, how can we involve this in the story again? And now we know that Gold Hoarder is actually dead. We don't ever have to fight him again. I would hope.
I
I like
personally think
I like Rathbone as a villain. Don't get me wrong. I like the Athena's Fortune book quite a lot, but I think fighting him twice is good enough for me.
I will say that I think this is actually a very smart retcon they did. If it probably is a retcon that his eyes are Veilstones, but it explains his insanity.
Indeed.
Yeah,
You can kind of infer before that like the curses on the Sea of Thieves can make someone insane because that's happened plenty of times. His gold curse, like his obsession with gold, that just seems like logical as is. But adding that kind of extra depth to it, where his eyes are actually these 2 stones that allow him to peer into a world he just can't reach. Quite
it's treasure
interesting.
it's treasure he can never have for himself.
Yeah, I really like that reveal. There's not really a lot to go over besides the fact that it exists, and I do think it may have future significance, but I'll kind of discuss that at the
Well,
end.
it feeds into the arms race of the
That
three
too.
factions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next we go to Salty Sands, which is just a few islands over, and we see the Brethren Phantoms actually handing over the skull. And they talk about a ritual needing to be done, somewhat of trying to build a scepter. We don't see this until later, but it's kind of cool that this arms race is not only between 2 factions, and there's a third, kind of more mysterious faction that is very, like, in the shadows and only strike when the moment is right. I can't tell if I like these guys or the Reapers more, but I do think the Reapers are currently, like, some of my favorite game villains. They have awesome
I
designs, and the lore is really cool, too.
I think that the Reapers are gonna get taken care of first before the Dark Brethren make their move. I think
I
the
agree.
Athena's Fortune will take care of them. I don't think all 3 factions are gonna fight each other at once, and that'll be the big climax. And then
I wouldn't
what's
really like
next?
that, honestly.
Well, because it takes attention away from the big rivalry between the Reapers
Of
and Athena's
course.
Fortune.
And if we have somewhat of a cliffhanger ending where like we finally take care of Captain Flameheart, and then that's when the captain we get news that like the captain's on his way. That would be crazy. Compared to like the captain already being there, like I don't think I would give a shit. Obviously I would, like I'm a Sea of Thieves lore freak, but compared to like I think we should give each faction their due diligence. Is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
because basically it's one trying to control the Sea of Thieves, then one trying to destroy the entire pirate life.
Of course, yeah.
Basically, it's kind of a bigger step in my opinion. I think the Dark Brethren are a bigger threat than the Reapers, in all honesty.
At least
But
right now, I think whatever fate they want is much darker than whatever the Reapers want.
yeah,
Next, we head to Cannon Cove, and we see a ritual with Olga, the Order of Souls member from Golden Sands. These Brethren Phantoms have kidnapped her and have forced her at this island to do a ritual of sorts, binding these two, this trident and this Gold Hoarder skull together to make a artifact. This is a new MacGuffin in the storyline. No more of a MacGuffin than the Veilstones, of course, but like that's not entirely a bad thing. It has a negative connotation, but like it's a plot device. Like these characters are gonna use this, and it's gonna have plot significance at some
well,
point.
at
This
least
is
you
just the
have
setup.
well, at least we have like more artifacts to talk about that are in play here.
Yeah, of course.
It's a part of
it's
world
not just the
building.
Veil of the Ancients. Like we can see that characters in the world can do this on their own. Of course, not on their own, but like they can make their own moves to make this kind of thing happen.
Though one thing I want to talk about is when going back to Golden Sands, there's a bit of a glitch that we experienced.
Indeed. I played this adventure before I played it with Derry, so I know the full extent of what you're supposed to see. When you show up to Wanda's workshop, Wanda with an O, not the Warsmith, when you talk to her, she kind of says, like, yeah, someone left this stupid paper for me talking about my sister. I don't really care, so I fucking tore it up and threw it outside. When you pick it up and put it in your journal, you see the kind of blaring evidence our masked assailant has left for us. And this is the main piece of evidence we can kind of astute to understand who it is. Which we'll get to in the finale. But there is a sea dog insignia on the last page, which is the biggest piece of evidence.
Yeah.
But when Derry and I played it, there was no paper. And when you talked to Olga or Wanda, you got no dialogue.
Then
Which
even
was
going
quite
back
disappointing.
to Belle, nothing was different either.
Yeah,
So-
our ending of our voyage was kind of screwed up, so we had to drop the voyage and let me do the ending cinematic. It's
So if
good
you
that there's
play-
checkpoints. Like I like that they've been able to implement that with these adventures, but it was kind of a shame that we got the final part of the mystery kind of
At least
slipped
we'll
out
get to
from under us.
replay it with Cheeto whenever
That's-
he's back aboard.
That's very true, but I think he's getting eaten by sharks right now.
He'll be fine. But sailors beware. If this glitch happens, you need to restart. It's sad.
And I hope you have someone on board who's already played.
There might be a way to like go back to the last checkpoint and then just restart the voyage. That's something you might be able to do. I don't know. We didn't try
I'm
that.
sorry to say, Derry, but if
But there's
I
not.
wasn't there, you would have to start over from where we met Belle, and she shows us the original memory of Merrick getting killed.
Oh, that is annoying. Yeah, okay, so yeah, beware. If this happens, you have to either restart or hit up someone who's done the adventure
I
before.
don't think it was an issue on our part. We did all of the checkpoints we were supposed to, whether it be at Sailor's Bounty, Salty Sands, or Cannon Cove, and then we went to Golden Sands, and the things we were waiting for just weren't there. So, yeah, beware. When you return to Belle with the full journal, she kind of puts the pieces together to herself and kind of decides, like, hey, I know where they are. They're at Dogs Tavern. Let's go confront them together. You go to the Dogs Tavern for the final confrontation, and we see the masked assailant kind of just waiting nonchalantly on one of the docks, like, okay. We go up to see the prompt to talk to them, and they throw their mask away into the fire. It's Amaranta! Who would have guessed?
Yep.
You know, I do want to talk about her character in a few minutes. This was pretty predictable. If you've been playing Sea of Thieves for as long as I have, it should be pretty apparent who this was. Whether it be the feathers on their coat or the mole on their mask, it kind of just makes sense. In 2019, she was supposed to be a red herring for Wanda, pretty much. Like, when we saw the Masked Stranger originally, many people thought, like, okay, this is either Wanda or Amaranta. They're both kind of bad guys, and it would make sense for it to be either. And then we found it out to be Wanda originally, but now that Arena is closed, we can finally have this character kind of back in the story, and I like that a lot. That
Yeah.
this is finally being paid off. We learned that Amaranta did not murder DeMarco. That is kind of interesting. With the way that mystery has been kind of progressing and we are figuring out who T is, this makes more sense, and that kind of made that theory obsolete. Upon her kind of giving exposition and monologuing, Belle shows up from her buoy. This is the first time we've seen this in game. I really like this.
Yeah.
That's a really cool cutscene. She kind of confronts Amaranta, saying, like, you killed Merrick. His soul is lost, you bitch. And Amaranta's like, no, actually. He was delivered to the Dark Brethren. But we already knew that from the trailer. Which
Yeah.
I've seen some people kind of have a point of contention with. While I like these trailers, this is the first one that really kind of spoiled what happened. And this ending cutscene with Duke and Wanda, I feel like would have been a lot more interesting had we gotten like a different trailer. Or maybe just seeing Merrick get killed in general.
Yeah, or more of like a, if we like see the Belle find the note and then the trailer ends on her waiting on the island or something.
Yeah, something like that. That's more ambiguous and doesn't straight up show, like, yeah, he was delivered to the Sea of the Damned and did not board the ferry.
But I will say it is really cool to just see a portal to the Sea of the Damned just right there.
Indeed. This scepter that the Dark Brethren have crafted, at least Amaranta has crafted, allows them to travel between the worlds, and this is a new trinket they are going to be using in the story henceforth. This trident magical scepter sort of thing is pretty cool. I like the design, even though it's just a gold hoarder skull roped to a trident. It's cool to see that kind of siren lore coming back. And there's a interesting cliffhanger where the portal closes and we don't really get a chance to say our last words.
Yeah. This is kind of it's a little bit dark for Sea of Thieves just to see Merrick basically be tortured for information.
It's
Uh,
fitting for the Dark Brethren. I quite like
it
it.
is fitting. It just, honestly, for me, I didn't think the story would go that dark when it comes to how they would treat other characters, but then again, it's pirate.
And our next adventure is called The Hunter's Cry, which leads me to believe we are going to go after him. I hope it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's time to talk about Amaranta, because she gets a lot of character development in this. She leaves behind a bunch of journals. Another thing that is kind of funny, she's left us all this information about herself just behind. Amaranta joining the Dark Brethren upon arena closing is pretty logical, and it's a great turn for her story, in my opinion. She was pretty unhappy with Arena while it was in commission, so Arena's end, seeing that send her down that path, makes sense to me. The Dark Brethren is supposed to be a kind of league of characters who are scorned by the pirate's life. They've really tried to get out there on the Sea of Thieves and make their own, and they've just gotten kind of not really betrayed, but like
They just got shafted.
they
by
got
everyone and
shafted
everything.
by everyone and everything, and they just wish to see it all burn. Unlike the Reapers, who have at least some code, some way of life, these characters just want to see the world burn. And I
Yeah.
quite like that, at least for Amaranta's character.
That's why I think they're more of a threat than the Reapers, because the Reapers don't want to destroy the pirate's life. They want to make it their own.
Aye. One thing I want to mention about the Forts of the Forgotten trailer, we see at the end of that trailer, Wanda kind of on a galleon outside of a sea fort with Amaranta, and she looks pretty pissed because the other Wanda, the weaponsmith, got captured by the Servant of the Flame and was supposedly being tortured for information. Not actually tortured, but they were keeping them captive. Amaranta
Yeah.
writes about this and says, when Flameheart kidnapped the weaponsmith all those months ago, he nearly brought my sister's wrath down upon himself. It took some doing, but I convinced her to call off the attack. We were just one ship after all, no need to bring attention to ourselves just yet. Little by little, I've been able to widen the gap between them. I will not allow a family reunion to jeopardize my place in the Dark Brethren. This adds a lot of characterization, especially what the note that Amaranta leaves for Wanda the Weaponsmith. It's very clear that Amaranta is somewhat infatuated with Wanda. I wouldn't
There's a
say
little bit of a complex going
a bit,
on here.
definitely. Originally, I interpreted this as like she's got the hots for Wanda, but the dialogue they use kind of makes it more of a sisterhood, which okay, like that's fine. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more LGBT rep because there's a few characters in game who are like that as is, but whatever.
It is what it is, but she's definitely got a complex that's very one-sided.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. There's a lot of irony going on between these character interactions. So Wanda the Warsmith wishes to reconnect with Wanda the Weaponsmith, from what we can infer. She still cares for her sister, but when you talk to Wanda the Weaponsmith at Golden Sands, she couldn't care less. She's more interested in crafting weapons and just doing her job, and the fact that she's back at Golden Sands than caring about her sister at all. Amaranta is hopelessly like infatuated with the Dark Brethren and joining Wanda, but Wanda couldn't care less. She seems more kind of annoyed, if anything. And if someone led our main enemies back to our tracks and opened a portal while we were torturing someone, I'd probably be pretty pissed.
Yeah, Amaranta's not doing a good job being a Dark Brethren just yet. I want to mention, just lay it all out for everyone to see, all in context now. Amaranta literally led the pirates, us, the player, directly to her in the most obvious breadcrumbs possible. Not to mention revealed exactly what they were doing and partially where they were keeping Merrick.
Yeah.
That's a why that's stupid. Amaranth is dumb for doing that. Like I said, that was my one complaint. I felt like Amaranta was too stupid, unless that was just a part of her character. I guess is that she was too fixated on the goal at hand and not realizing that she left a big ass trail of breadcrumbs right, basically to Dark Brethren's front door.
I guess if I
Exactly.
was gonna play devil's advocate, when you talked to Amaranta, I should say, back when Arena was still a thing and she was waiting outside the tavern, she kind of is a cocky asshole. There's no other way to say it. Like, she is obsessed with winning. When you talk to the different Arena characters, they kind of all have a different ideology about like competition, and the only part that she likes about the competition is actually winning. She thinks she's a better pirate than Lacetti and DeMarco, and she thinks she should have been kind of the owner of Arena to begin with.
She's a sore winner.
She's a sore winner, and I can kind of see her like getting too cocky, too in over her head to think like, oh, these pirates are not gonna even be able to find my tracks, and that was her fatal flaw. Is her
That's probably what it was, but it just annoyed me more than anything because, yeah, it was so. That was just annoying, but I find it funny though. And then
I think
she
it's
acted all
within her character at least somewhat.
it is, but she acted all surprised when we found her too.
Yeah, yeah.
This is funny, but
I would like to get to the final thoughts and how we rank this with the other adventures. This is the 5th one, so we've kind of had, I could say we kind of have like an understanding how these things should work, or like what kind of activities we're supposed to be sent out on, how long they should be, their rewards. Let's lay it all out. So what do you think, Derry?
I think that this overall, not saying it's bad or none of them are bad, it is probably my second least favorite.
What would be your least favorite?
The first one.
You like Forts of the Forgotten more than Shrouded Islands? Or this
A little
one?
bit.
Really?
A little.
What? I did not like saving those Golden Sands members. Not one bit. That was RNG and quite
I
annoying.
like the forts.
I like the forts, yes, but that I kind of count that as a separate edition. I like the forts a lot.
Well, actually, after reconsidering, I guess it'd be Forts of the Forgotten, the first one that I, for some reason, can't remember. Then I guess it'd be this one. Then
That's fair.
Then it would be the one with the Shrouded Ghost is still my favorite so far. Because of the
Indeed.
Shrouded Ghost being awesome. And then the adventure from last time was great.
Lost
What do
Sands
you
was
think?
great, yeah, indeed. I would say mine is probably similar, but I like Shrouded Islands just a little bit more than this one. This is my second to least favorite, but that's not to say it was bad. I do think Forts of the Forgotten was kind of bad. I'm not even going to lie. There's not a lot to really like about that one. For its time, like, it was fun, but this episode isn't about that. I do
Go
like
watch
this
your video
adventure.
on it.
Yeah, go watch the first episode, even though it was not very well produced. I do like this adventure, despite the long sailing time, the bug that we had, and kind of the silly characterization. I wouldn't even say the characterization is silly. It's just like when you kind of think
feels
about it,
a little contrived. Just a little
just
bit.
a little bit, but like, hey, it could be worse. I do like
Yeah.
the murder mystery aspect, and I think I'll kind of look back fondly on this one. I do like a lot of the reveals we
This is
got.
a very important adventure.
Yeah, if we didn't have it, the game or the story would be worse off, because if we just skip to the next one, the finale, where
You'd be like, what the-
supposedly we're
what the
saving
hell?
Merrick, like, it wouldn't be as good. So it
is
is a
there-
very good setup tale adventure sort of thing, but I do wish the sailing time was better, and I wish that
I guess I think my whole perspective is that the gameplay wasn't as engaging is because long sailing time plus quick island time, where you're not on the island for very long. So I felt
Indeed.
like you didn't really do a whole lot.
Indeed.
That-
But when you think
that's
back to
probably-
like Shrouded Islands, it only took like an hour. There were major changes to the world with the fog. You know, Belle was
It was
introduced.
interesting set pieces that were cool.
There was the Soul Flame Captain fight. Even if that fight was bugged, I really like that set piece. We still see like a lot of the memories of Flameheart Jr. And the memories in this one are good, but the reveals just don't pack that much of a punch, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Overall, I do like this one, though. Like, I don't have much bad to say about it, but, like, it could be a lot better.
I would say a 6 out of 10 is where
I'm not going to give it a number, but I have given my ranking alongside the others, and I think that's good enough. Any last things you want to say about this venture, Derry?
I'm just excited to see more, just like every other time you ask me that question.
I'm interested to see this finale. I really want to see how that
Yeah.
plays out, and hopefully it'll be another thing to do with multiple crews. I think we can, hopefully can infer from the Shrouded Deep that those are going to be like the biggest kind of events that bring people together, and that is
Yeah.
something I love when Sea of Thieves does.
I really hope that it is for the build up that it's had for like the past while. I hope it's worth the wait.
I hope we
Basically,
go to the Sea of the Damned. That's my wish.
that would be amazing.
How else are we going to
But
save Merrick? You think they're going to come to the Sea of Thieves? I don't know.
no, Belle's gonna be like, "Hey, I got Merrick, guys.
Yeah,
You didn't have
she's
to do
going to do it
anything."
off screen, and that's the whole adventure. We just say
Yeah,
hi
so
to
you
him.
just go talk to Belle, and he's like, "I'm okay. I'm Merrick."
Lorena has a favor to ask that we go say hi to Merrick, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the 5th adventure of Adventure Calls, and I'd like you guys to comment what you thought. Thank you, Derry, for joining, and I think we should stop at an island to restock after that skeleton ship. That fight sucked.
Yeah, it was kind of annoying. I mean, Cheeto still hasn't caught a mermaid. I think he just alt-F4'd out of the game.
Probably.
Probably.
Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the seas.
See ya. Check out my Twitter.